Did you know a woman fought in over 40 battles disguised as a man? But as strange as that sounds, it's only one of the strange things that happened during the Civil War. Did you know Abraham Lincoln died carrying a Confederate $5 bill and no U.S. currency whatsoever? Or that two armies literally paused a battle to watch two soldiers settle a dispute with their fists? These are 10 Civil War facts that you probably missed, but they get stranger as you go. Let's start off with this. After the Battle of Shiloh, thousands of soldiers noticed their wounds glowing a greenish blue in the dark. Physicians then discovered that the soldiers with glowing wounds had lower infection rates and healed faster. Field doctors called it angel's glow and had no explanation for it. It took 139 years to solve the mystery. In 2001, a 17-year-old named Bill Martin visited the Shiloh battlefield with his microbiologist mother and a friend. They started asking questions and then figured out that the wounded soldiers became hypothermic after lying on cold and wet ground. Their body temperatures dropped low enough that a bioluminescent bacterium called Photorhabdus luminescens could survive in their wounds. That bacterium killed off the dangerous pathogens infecting them, and the glowing wounds were healing themselves. Two teenagers solved the mystery. On April 14, 1865, the night Abraham Lincoln was shot, he carried a wallet containing 8 newspaper clippings. Every single one of them contained complimentary remarks about him. He cut them out and kept them. In his wallet, he also carried a Confederate $5 bill. This was the same man who guided the Union to victory in the Civil War. He died carrying the currency of the government he had just defeated. The note may have been gotten as a souvenir when Lincoln visited Petersburg and Richmond earlier that month, but his wallet contained no U.S. currency whatsoever. And the newspaper clippings are harder to explain. Lincoln was one of the most powerful men in the world. Why was he still keeping the good reviews in his wallet? What do you think? But if you thought that was strange, a woman lived as a man for over 50 years, fought in over 40 battles, and no one knew. Meet Albert Cashier, who enlisted in the 95th Illinois Infantry in 1862 and lived as a man for 53 consecutive years. Fought in over 40 engagements, including the Siege of Vicksburg. After the war, Cashier collected a veteran's pension and voted in elections. Comrades, neighbors, and pension officials had no idea until a car accident in 1910 exposed the secret. In 1913, due to dementia, Cashier was sent to a state hospital where attendants discovered his birth sex and forced him to wear a dress. The men who had fought alongside Cashier for years formally protested against such treatment. When Cashier died in 1915, he was buried in full uniform. The Civil War triggered America's first opioid crisis. The Union Army alone ordered over 10 million opium pills and nearly 2.8 million ounces of opium powders and tinctures during the war. Surgeons improvised constantly. If supplies shot short, they'd pour opium powder directly into a soldier's open hand. Some rubbed morphine powder straight into open wounds. After the war ended, the bill came due. In Atlanta, 2 out of every 2,000 people were addicted to opioids. The worst city was Shreveport, Louisiana, where almost 10 out of every 1,000 were addicted to opium or morphine. White veterans even called their addiction opium slavery. During the Civil War, Dr. Jacob Mendez da Costa studied soldiers with a strange cluster of symptoms: racing pulse, chest pain, difficulty breathing, and overwhelming anxiety. Da Costa concluded it was a heart condition. He called it heart soldier or irritable heart. He prescribed drugs to manage the cardiac symptoms, then he sent the soldiers back to battle. Doctors kept returning traumatized soldiers to battle after giving them drugs to control their cardiac symptoms. What they were actually looking at was PTSD, but they didn't have the word. So the Army treated it as a physical malfunction of the heart. The diagnosis of PTSD wasn't formally recognized until 1980. In perhaps one of the strangest Civil War coincidences, the Army of Northern Virginia lost 2 of its key corps commanders in friendly fire incidents in the wilderness of Spotsylvania, almost exactly 1 year apart. Jackson in 1863 and Longstreet in 1864. both while leading flank attacks through the same dark wooded terrain. Longstreet was accidentally shot by his own men 3 miles from the place where Stonewall Jackson suffered the same fate a year earlier. Jackson died, Longstreet survived, but his right arm was permanently paralyzed. After Jackson was shot by his own men, his arm was amputated on the field. It was buried at Elwood Manor in Virginia, a proper burial, marked grave, and permanent location. Jackson was moved 25 miles away to recover. He seemed like he might survive. Then he caught pneumonia and died. He was buried in Lexington, Virginia, while his arm stayed at Elwood Manor as it remains to this day, visited by tourists who make a pilgrimage specifically to see the general's arm's grave. But you think that's crazy until you hear this. In the Army of the Potomac in 1863, a woman from New Jersey had fought at the 7 Days Battle during her first trimester. She was promoted for her actions at Fredericksburg while in her 3rd trimester. She went into labor while on picket duty. She had to be carried to a farmhouse to give birth. In February 1865, a black woman who had enlisted in the 29th Connecticut Infantry gave birth as the regiment served in the trenches outside Petersburg. A sergeant wrote home after that second birth, "I wish to ask, did you ever hear of a man having a child?" He still thought he was writing about a man. This one is funny. During the Battle of the Wilderness, a Union soldier and a Confederate soldier came face to face in a clearing between both armies. Every soldier on both sides stopped fighting and ran up to watch as the two men settled it with their fists. The Confederates won. The Union soldier, true to whatever agreement they had made, surrendered on the spot. Then both armies went back to the battle. Chang and Ang Bunker, the original Siamese twins joined at the sternum, had settled in North Carolina, built a farm using enslaved labor, and became devoted Confederates. When Union General Stoneman raided North Carolina and ran a lottery draft, Ang's name was drawn, but he resisted. Since Chang's name wasn't drawn, nothing could be done. The brothers were not only joined at the sternum, but their livers were also fused. Neither served, but their eldest sons both enlisted and fought for the Confederacy. These 10 things all happened. If there's a Civil War story you think belongs on this list, drop it in the comments. And watch this video next for every Civil War general's death.